Hello, I'm Jamie.
Hello, I'm Mark, and it's time for another episode of Through the Garden Gate. It's Tuesday night, it's 7:30, it's time for another episode of
Through the Garden Gate
podcast. It is episode number 87.
87.
87! That's a lot of podcasts,
Well,
a lot of talking.
Well, Dad, when we get to 90,
That's only in 3 weeks' time. 3 weeks' time we hit 90. 13 weeks' time, it's 100.
yeah, and
Let's get Jamie in.
and
Here's Jamie.
hello.
Hello.
What have you been doing?
What have I been doing? I've been sitting and watching you two chat.
What have you been doing?
Been doing?
Yeah, you don't like the bees.
Oh, been doing. I've been doing my bees. Have you seen my bees, George?
No. Well, I've seen
What?
them on a reel.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
You haven't been down there to see him in real life.
No. But I will do it at some point.
Oh, I just cut the Instagram microphone off for some reason. Is that a new thing?
No idea.
Oh.
Couldn't hear you if you were talking.
How's the weather been anyway?
Evening, Jenny.
Hot?
Very hot.
There's Grandma.
Very, very, very hot.
Too hot for
What?
May.
The medal for George.
It's not a medal, it's a chewy thing, so George doesn't chew his clothes. He's constantly chewing. So what have you been up to, George? What have you been up to? We might have to turn the camera around because he wants to show you what he's been doing.
Been doing.
Well, then you go in front of your thing. What's that then, George?
It's a chaos bed. So we put, you know how my dad was saying about the chaos bed? We've finally done it. So we put vegetables in there and then flowers in there.
So what? Tell us what a chaos bed is.
So it's where you just get loads of seeds and just throw them all into the bed and then see what happens.
Oh, so it's just going to be all hickledy-pickledy, see what comes up.
Yeah. So this is for so like birds don't eat the plant.
Yeah.
Or cat.
Don't want them pooing in your chaos
Cats
bed.
No, and then
use it as a litter tray.
And then same for this.
Oh, that's an old wheelbarrow, that one.
Yep. Took the bulbs out and have replaced it with flower seeds.
Fantastic. So, have you got any idea what's in there, or is it just going to be a complete surprise?
Well, I've picked some seeds.
Well, what's in this one? Because you know what's in this one. What type of flowers are in there? They're all...
They're edible flowers.
Oh, fantastic. That'd be good.
Jamie.
Hang on a minute. In the other bed, it could anything, all sorts. I let him loose in my seed. So. It's going to be
Good
interesting.
experiment.
They'll probably be the best vegetables in the entire veg garden. Right, George has got a fact, but it's not a gardening fact.
Oh, don't matter.
So, gardening fact. Over 20,000 species of bees exist worldwide. Not all bees live in hives. Some live alone, are called solitary bees.
Oh.
Fantastic. 20,000 different bees.
That's a lot of bees.
Yeah.
I can't even count to that.
How many bees are there in your hive?
It's probably about 20,000.
But just one species.
One species, yeah, just honeybee. But it's probably about 20,000 now, ish.
Wow. That's a lot of bees.
Yeah.
Leave it, Joe.
It's going to be more yet. It's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger.
Exciting, isn't it? Anything else you want to tell us, or are you going? Yeah. Other than poking me.
Take that.
No. Go on. See you later.
Bye.
See you
Good
next
job.
time.
See you in 2 weeks then.
See you in 2 weeks.
See you in 2 weeks. Episode 99.
Yeah, and we'll be on holiday for that.
Oh, will you?
Yeah, we'll be in Wales.
Oh, lovely.
I'll leave now.
Edge garden's looking nice, mate.
Let's get in there.
Looks
The
lovely.
new bit.
Looks really good.
Just the old bit to sort out now.
It's constant, isn't it?
Yep. At least I've got growing space this year, because last year all I had was polytunnel.
Yeah.
So
No, it looks really nice. I watched your little reel the other day. Was it yesterday? I thought it was really, really smart. Looks good.
last night. Yeah. Itching to get stuff in the ground now.
Yeah, I've been putting a few bits out.
Yeah, I've put spring onions and some chard and some red cabbage. But other than that,
Yeah.
nothing else.
No, I've just put a few cabbages out, and my chard's not even. I've only sowed my chard and beetroot and things the other day. I've tried direct sowing. It just doesn't work in peat-free compost. It's rubbish. Not for no other reason that it's just too big, isn't it? It doesn't get good enough contact to the seed. I don't think.
Yeah, I don't think you get it's not got as fine a tilth, has it, as
No.
normal compost.
No, or soil. If you use soil, it's obviously really fine, and peat compost is really fine as well. So I've tried it every year. I've done 2 rows of radish and 2 rows of beetroot before I went on holiday, and there's about 20 radishes and about 5 beetroot come up. It's just not worth it. And I've kept them watered as well. So
Yeah. It's a weird year for germination. My tomatoes have been really rubbish. I've done some more in different compost just to make sure it's not the compost.
my tomatoes have been brilliant, as you've seen.
You're good at the early all the early stuff because you've got your hot hut.
Yeah, that's just absolutely brilliant. Absolute perfect for everything, that is. In there at the moment, I've got all the different beans, peas, pumpkins, squash, loads of flowers in there now, and they're all popping up within days.
Deb said she sowed an entire pack of parsnips and only got 6.
You got to do the plank of wood trick like I do. That always works.
I've got to try that this year.
The thing with
carrots as well.
you've got to keep them moist. As soon as they dry out a tiniest bit, that's it. They're gone, aren't they?
They will not do it.
And they're paper, aren't they? They're paper thin, so they just dry out so quick.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Just gone.
I just saw Jo say she's sown all her beetroot and it's fine. That's what I think to your beetroot. Yes, try it. Do it. It works. I've done it. This is my 3rd year now. Keeps it nice and damp under there.
I wonder if you mulched over the top of it, it would work as well.
Same kind of thing, I suppose.
It wouldn't work, would it?
Might do. Same kind of thing. Keeping the moisture in. That's the main thing. It's the moisture.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are we talking about tonight then?
I don't know.
I know.
Is it anything to do with bees by any chance?
I hope so. It's my new passion.
Your new passion.
Mm.
How is your new passion going?
Good. Brilliant. I went in on Sunday and had a look.
All of your evenings, so now your veg garden's getting neglected.
No, it's not. I pop down there and just have 5 minutes having a look at them, just watching them. That's all.
You take the little hatch out, or you just...
They haven't got to that yet. They haven't got to that yet.
No, right.
You've got to work the way across to that.
Right, we're going to get
our
our
guest
guest
in.
in.
Let's do it.
Right. how many awful bee puns can I get into this intro?
Oh man, you've been working on these for a week.
You're not going to believe who we have tonight. You're going to be buzzing when I tell you. I've been looking forward to it all day. He means business. When it comes to beekeeping, don't all swarm in at once.
Oh,
It's
oh
Mark.
my god.
Buzz into beekeeping.
They were all right apart from the business one.
I was trying to get honey in somewhere, but it didn't work.
You could call him Honey.
Yeah.
Come in, Honey. Hey, Mark.
How you going?
Hello.
How you going? That was a
I bet you,
fantastic intro.
I bet you don't hear many bee puns, do you?
No, not in this business, you don't. No.
Crazy. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. I'm good. How are you, Jamie?
Yeah, good, thank you.
No.
Loving this weather?
Oh, it's,
Not really.
oh, it's great weather, this. Lovely.
I need some water.
Yeah, no, definitely for the plants. They're talking about hosepipe bans on the news tonight, aren't they?
Oh, God.
Oh, what in May? It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. The thing is, so we've got horses out there, obviously you've seen on the horse field, and it's not growing. The grass isn't growing, so we're having to buy more hay. And then the grass isn't growing for the people who make the hay. So next year it's going to happen again, and the hay is going to be so much more expensive because there's going to be a shortage of it. It's just a knock-on effect all the way.
Yeah. Give up the
And
horses, just
farmers,
do bees.
I would do it. I'd have that whole field as a small holding. I'd have all different animals and everything, but she won't let me.
Oh,
No.
good to meet you, Mark. We've not spoken before.
Yeah, good to meet you. You're going to teach us all about bees and beekeeping.
Oh, I can try, yeah. I mean, I'm not by any stretch, I don't know everything. I'm not the bee oracle at all. But there's so much to learn about beekeeping. But no, I'm thoroughly enjoying it myself. Just getting into it and learning more every time. But yeah, no, it's good. Yeah, Jamie, you did your course last year, didn't you?
I did, yeah. So I knew I wanted to keep bees eventually, and I didn't know a lot about them, but I knew that they needed a bit of knowledge behind it.
Yeah.
I knew I couldn't just go and get a hive and some bees and do it.
No.
So I did my full course last year, but then I didn't get my bees last year because I knew I had to have an operation at the end of the year.
Okay.
I thought
No, you did.
I couldn't dedicate my time to it, and now I'm fixed and I've got my bees thanks to you.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that's good. That's good.
It was the final
Okay.
push. Then I saw you. I didn't see you at the press event because I was still, had just had my operation not long. But I saw what you had released at the press event, and everybody was talking to you, and that's what made me. We started chatting.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah, no, it's all like BuzzBox is really new, so the company's only launched it sort of January this year. It's been in my mind and kind of been in the planning for probably 18 months, almost 2 years now. So it's been a long time coming, but yeah, it's kind of just arrived, if you like. But yeah, it's all about trying to get more people into beekeeping. So I think we're quite short on beekeepers in the UK. Just doing a bit of research last year, and compared to France have like almost double the number of beekeepers per capita than we do in the UK.
Wow.
Germany has a bit more than that, and Slovenia are way out in front. They have 7 times as many beekeepers per capita, on a proportional basis than we
That's
have.
unbelievable.
It's incredible. So we've got a long way to go. We're kind of way at the bottom of the table in terms of European countries, in terms of the number of beekeepers. And I think I feel like everything that we're doing as humans on the planet, everything we're doing is chipping away at what the bees have and the space they have and the opportunities they have to survive. So I think it's really time that we sort of step up and help look after them and give them the space and the habitats and the places to live where they can do it, because it's running out for them. So I think it's really important that we increase the number of beekeepers, and then the BuzzBox starter kit, which is kind of the sort of nucleus of the company. the reason I decided to try and do that was to try and make it a bit easier for people looking to get into beekeeping. When I first started, I imagine you might have had a similar experience when you first start. You kind of there's so many different things you can buy. It's a bit like gardening, I think. You know, there's
Oh
so
yeah.
many you could buy that you might need, that you probably need at some point, but you don't necessarily need them to start with. And yeah, it took me a little while to get my head around all the different types of frames and the different types of hives and what works with what and what's not compatible and all those sorts of things. So I thought, well, if you had a kit that a kit that has all of the essential bits that you need, it'll get you through at least the first year or so.
Yeah.
That'll at least take one sort of aspect of getting into beekeeping, kind of take the stress out of that and make it easy for people.
Yeah.
So the kit's got all the bits that you need. And then with a bit of training, a bit of knowledge, or a mentor or someone who can help you with it to start with, and getting some bees, and then you're away. But yeah, so if we can, yeah, that's kind of one of the hurdles I think of getting into beekeeping is the equipment and understanding what you need and sort of going out and getting it. Because the other thing is you don't see it available for sale anywhere. You know, if you're out on a high street or shopping center or wherever it is, you never see beekeeping equipment available. It's always, it's there, it's online, but unless you know what you're looking for, it's a bit daunting, a bit intimidating. So yeah, trying to make it more accessible and a bit easier to start, at that initial thing. And once you start beekeeping and you maybe join your local association and learn from others and see what others are doing, then you can tweak what you've got and adjust how you're doing things to what suits you. But yeah, that's the sort of nuts and bolts of kind of why Buzzbox is. Yeah.
So is there less?
Mark, hold on a minute.
beekeepers-
Just say to people, if they've got any questions, I can see 2 or 3 gone past. Put them in the question mark box for this one if you can, because I don't want to miss them.
Yeah, somebody
put them in that question mark box, and we'll get them all in there, and we'll have a we'll go through questions in a bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool,
I can see them flicking past, and I don't want to miss them. Sorry, mate. Go on.
Right. So historically, have beekeeper numbers fallen in the UK, or have we just always been not as good as
actually, in the 1950s, in the 50s, there were like 80,000 registered beekeepers in the UK, which is quite a few. And that, I don't know what happened between there and the year 2000, but at the year 2000, it had dropped to 9,000 registered beekeepers. So almost, 90% of beekeepers had kind of packed it up and given in.
Wow.
I think it's because in the 90s the varroa mite arrived in the UK, and that really decimated the number of hives, and it was really difficult to deal with initially. We now have lots of ways of dealing with varroa mites now, and it's not as much of a problem. But yeah, so it dropped down to like 9,000 registered beekeepers. There's always going to be those that haven't registered or whatever it is, but and as of I think the end of 2023 is the latest numbers. I'm not sure what 2024 was, but I think 2023 we were up to about 47 or 48,000. Wow. So it's definitely increased since
climbing back up again.
Yeah, it is. It has, and I think that that's probably a lot of things like obviously being able to control the varroa mite better now, but also like in the kind of the world, we're so much more aware of climate change and sustainability and increasing biodiversity and all of those things which have really come to the fore over the last 20 years. So that's definitely helping, I feel. And yeah, but we're still, if you look at the numbers from 1950 and then sort of extrapolate to where we are now in terms of the population in the UK, we've got 20 million more people. So really we should have sort of 120,000 beekeepers really, rather than the 49, just call it 50,000. So yeah, so if one of the sort of lofty goals I think I've got with Buzzbox is to try and help get to that 100,000 beekeepers in the UK mark. I think that'd be a really good sort of something to aim for, something to sort of really push for, and think everything that the BBKA do with the way that beekeeping works in the UK. With the local associations and all that sort of thing, it's a fantastic system, and it's just kind of shepherding more people to it. And once they're, if you join your local association, you can go through all the training like you've done, Jamie, and get into it and start, communicate, getting into the community, because it's a lot like gardening, where once you sort of you meet a few gardeners, and it kind of grows, and there's a huge community of beekeepers who you can ask, get questions and help and advice and all that sort of thing. So yeah, we definitely need more beekeepers.
The good thing I did right at the beginning, before I even signed up for my course, I went on a taster day with our local association.
Absolutely.
We went and sat in the classroom for about an hour, and they told us all about the very basics of the life of the bee, and then we suited up and went out into the apiary, and wow, that's the first time. And I've said it to lots of people, I'll never forget that noise when they opened that hive the first time.
Yeah.
But when they pulled that first frame up,
yeah,
unbelievable. Just the buzz is just
was
fantastic.
Was that the moment where you were hooked, or?
Oh yeah, definitely,
Yeah.
definitely, 100%.
Yeah.
And then there's people going, and they just didn't like it. They couldn't. My wife hasn't been nowhere near the hive. She said, I just can't do it. But
Yeah.
she goes, how can I get over the fence and go and sit about a metre away from them, just sit calmly watching them fly in and out?
Yeah.
Not even dressed, not even with a suit on. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Love it.
No, it is. It's great. And the more you do that, the more they'll get used to you being there and not take worries. And there was a bit of research that came out, I don't know, last year or year before, where they reckon that bees can actually recognize human faces. So
Wow.
I don't know how they know that or anything, but yeah, it's really fascinating with what they can do. But going back to your thing about the taster days, or the beekeeping experiences, those are fantastic, because it's always with either the local association or local beekeepers who have their own apiaries and run these taster days, and they are such a great way to put your toe in the water and see if beekeeping is for you, because it's not for everyone.
Yeah.
But it is absolutely fascinating, and you're right, when you first open the hive and the first time you see that just frames covered in bees, and it's quite daunting and intimidating initially, and you got to remind yourself, I'm in a suit, I'm okay, it's all okay, and you can go back and do it. So
and also don't freak out, because they can tell, can't they? They can tell if you're worried.
I think so. I think if you're calm and deliberate with your actions, and while you're handling the frames and things, then I think they can feel that. But if you're rushed and hurried and bumping things around, I think you're going to agitate them, and obviously they'll get defensive and probably try and sting you if you bump them around too much. But on the whole, the honeybees we have in the UK are really, really quite friendly. I grew up in Zimbabwe, and the African honeybee is a completely different kettle of fish.
I've heard about them.
Yeah, my grandfather kept bees, so that's kind of I've always kind of been around beekeeping. It's been sort of on my radar from the beginning. But I was never allowed near the hives, because you just get attacked. So I wasn't allowed to get hands on with the bees at all. But obviously, honey and eating the comb, that's my favorite thing, is having honeycomb on toast. Like the best thing in the world. But but the bees are pretty good, So this is something I had. This is a frame. It's just the foundation.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's kind of what a frame would look like, with and it would just be literally covered in bees both sides. And you have to have a look at some of Jamie's videos when he posts them up when he does his next inspection to see what it's like.
Hopefully,
it's just it's unbelievable. The weight of the frames as well, when they're stacked full of honey or brood or whatever. Oh my God.
Yeah.
The first time I pulled, I went, I better get a better grip on that, because it's so heavy.
It is, yeah. That's it's like having when you get to like harvesting a whole super of honey. So if anyone doesn't know, the way that a hive works is that the bottom box is a slightly bigger one, and that's called the brood box. So the queen will stay in that bottom box, and then the smaller box that you put on top of that, they're called supers, and that's where the bees store the honey. So once halfway through the summer or end of the summer, once those brood boxes are full and you want to harvest them, tell you what, lifting one of those boxes off, you got to be careful. They are heavy. Very heavy. Yeah.
Really heavy.
Yeah, amazing how heavy. And obviously these are coming in with the tiniest, sort of pinhead worth of pollen or nectar and things, and they're creating this whole, 20, 30 kilos worth of honey. it's amazing, sort of, yeah, the way the colony pulls together and does that.
It's quite mind blowing, isn't it, when you sit and think about it?
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, the
Yeah,
actual
no,
bees are mind blowing. Now I've learnt about them, and I'm learning more and more every day just by watching different people on here and reading books and things. The actual bee is a phenomenal little thing.
absolutely incredible. Yeah, I mean things like waggle dances, being able to
The
communicate
waggle dance is phenomenal.
direction,
It's amazing.
distance. That is, isn't it?
Just explain that. I'm sorry. It's
I
brilliant.
need to know what the waggle dance is.
Oh, have you ever heard of it, Mark?
Only online I've seen bits and
Okay.
pieces, but
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it's quite common. When you're doing an inspection, quite often, if you ever get a frame out, you'll see a bee doing a waggle dance. But the way that it works is, so the bees use sort of landmarks, but also the Earth's gravitational fields to navigate, and obviously the sun and that kind of thing. So if a bee flies off and she finds, a really, really nice sort of source of nectar, like, I don't know, a big lavender field or something, and she's really excited about this, wants to tell the rest of the bees where to go, she'll head back to the hive. And then on the frame, she will do this little dance where she'll move along the comb, wiggling, and then do like a figure of 8 back to the start, and then do that wiggle again in the same direction and same sort of distance across the comb. And the angle of the direction that she does her wiggle in and the length of time that she wiggles for gives the bees information about direction and distance, where they can go to the same place. So it's like passing on dropping a pin on Google Maps, bee style. And they communicate that way. So when the bee goes out, I've heard the waggle dance or seen the waggle dance. I need to go in this direction and for a mile or however long it is, and should find the thing. So it's an amazing way that they communicate in the hive. And it's the other thing is it's dark in the hive as well. So the way they do this is incredible.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. It's pitch black in there once the lid's on.
Yeah, no, it's everything's in the dark. Yeah. So communication with pheromones as well. So they sort of obviously when we do an inspection and we open up the hive and expose it all, obviously we disrupt the sort of atmosphere that they've created in the hive, and it takes them a few days to then get everything back to the right temperature, humidity, and the pheromone levels and everything else back. So, and that's part of the reason why it's advised not to open it up too often, only necessary. And it's also why I put those observation windows into the buzzbox hives, because as a beekeeper in general, but particularly when you start in, you just want to know what they're doing in there. You want to go on and see what all the different colours of pollen that's coming back and where they're drawing it and how they're doing it. And no, it's great. So you get a little glimpse into it with the windows on there, which I really enjoy. And my kids. The hive that I have, the kids really enjoy coming down and having a look, seeing what they're up to, seeing what the changes are day to day.
Yeah. I pulled my window off yesterday. I haven't done it today, but they hadn't got to the outside edge yet.
Yeah, no. I've got a colony in a buzz box. I don't know, a week or two before you, and they're not quite on that outside frame just yet. But no, it'll be soon though. They're growing, expanding quite nicely.
Yeah, they when I had a look on Sunday because I wanted to find the queen, and I pulled one of the new frames out, and they'd drawn it all. It was beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Just explain drawing the wax. Then it's
okay. Yeah. So the bees, they obviously you've seen honeycomb, obviously hexagonal cells all on the thing, and those they're a particular size. And there's actually 2 sizes of comb that the bees will make. So most of the comb will be the right size for the queen to lay eggs in and to raise new workers. But at a certain time of year, so like early in the season, the bees will draw comb that's actually got a bigger cell in it, and that's when the queen lays in there. They will raise drones. So there are 3 types of bees. So there's queens, workers, and drones. The queen obviously is female. All the workers are also female, and the drones are the males. So the bees, so they will draw comb. This frame that I've got here. So this is it's a bit battered, but this is a sheet of beeswax foundation, and so it's made. This is not made by bees. This is made by us, but we put them into the frames just to give them a start, something to start with. and it's got a little hexagonal pattern on it, which is the right size for the bees to use. But yes, they'll draw comb off of both sides from the center out, and then the cells on either side of a frame will be filled with, well, in the brood box, it'll be mostly raising new bees, so workers and drones. And then above, we put a queen excluder above the brood box so the queen stays in the bottom and doesn't move up into the supers. And in the supers, they'll use that for storing mostly nectar, which will then be sort of turned into honey, and pollen. And they also make other things like bee bread and royal jelly. So yeah, kind of wandering around a bit here, but the bee bread and royal jelly is what's used to raise young bees, so raising the larvae, so they're fed on. A queen, if the colony are raising a new queen, that larvae will be fed royal jelly all the way through its development until it's capped, and then it'll become a queen. Whereas normal worker bees and drones, I think drones get it too, will have royal jelly for the first few days only, and then they'll have other stuff until they kind of develop. So they'll develop just into a normal worker bee.
It's phenomenal, isn't it? That just feeding the larvae different things changes them from a queen to a drone or a. But oh no, there's a difference between a drone and a worker, isn't there? Because doesn't she? The workers are fertilized and the drones aren't.
That's right.
Oh,
yeah,
I'm learning.
Yeah, you're remembering. Yeah. So the drones, and then so the drones don't really add any value in the hive at all. They're there for one reason, and so once they emerge from as fully fledged bees, they all spend their days out of the hive, mostly at these drone congregation areas, which is like it's no one knows exactly why they are where they are, but there are these places where the drones go to and they congregate in these places. And when a virgin queen goes on her mating flight, she will fly to one of these areas. This is one of the really incredible things about bees, right? So the queen hatches in a box somewhere and she's never been outside or been anywhere or anything, but she leaves the hive and she will fly to one of these areas, which could be above a big tree, or it could be somewhere, but she flies to this place where all the drones are there waiting as well, and then she'll mate with up to 50, I believe, of these drones, and then return to the hive, and then a few days later start laying. But it's just incredible that they know where to go, how to get there. It's amazing. But so the drones will spend their days at these drone congregation areas. I think that's where you get sort of a mix of drones from different hives and things. So you then ensuring that there's sort of a mix of DNA, genetics, getting all that in that right, and then hopefully the queen mates with someone or a bunch of these drones that are good natured and calm and everything else, and then raises new bees that are of the same sort of temperament. Then at the
just hope there's no African ones popped over.
Yeah, holiday African bees, those drone bees. But at the end of the summer, those drones will actually be kicked out of the hive because they'll just be a drain on resources in the wintertime. So sort of August, September time, they'll be kicked out and not allowed back in, and they'll go off and die somewhere. As the colony starts to shrink down a little bit as they prepare for winter. So they spend all summer, obviously collecting pollen and honey and everything else to obviously feed the colony while it's throughout the summer, but also to store excess for the winter, to get them through the winter, because they don't actually hibernate like other things do during the winter. They just create a little cluster in the middle of the hive where they all, kind of like penguins, I suppose, all keep together to keep warm and sort of get through the winter.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
But yeah, beekeeping's, in terms of what the amount of time and effort it takes you to beekeep. Really, if you have 1 or 2 or 3 colonies, you're probably only going to need to spend, a couple of hours a week actually hands-on with the bees, and that's mainly sort of April through to August, September time. So and then, you know, through the winter and things, there's other things to do, sort of making up frames, for example, for the next year, or cleaning equipment, or there's lots of bits and bobs to do. Yeah, no, it's not it's not like having a dog where you need to feed it, you know, once or twice a day, every day, and walk it and all that sort of thing. They
No.
are wild creatures, really, aren't they? You know, we kind of domesticate them or give them somewhere to live, but really they are looking after themselves, you know, and we're just sort of trying to make sure that they've got a decent place to live, and they're sort of disease free, and got as good a as good a life as possible.
Mm.
And
Yeah, I noticed it on Sunday when I did my first little inspection. I thought, right, I'm going to put an hour aside, but I know I didn't have a full hive, and I only took 6 frames out, but it took me 20 minutes from start to finish. I had a good look over all of them, found my queen. I could see some eggs in there and see some larvae, and you know that was it. It was fine.
Yeah, no, it's not. I mean, I say, you know, an hour, maybe 2, but you'd probably want to be doing, you know, spend time having a look and working out.
Yeah.
So I know that like commercial beekeepers, you know, they'll spend, you know, 2 or 3 minutes in a hive.
Yeah.
They'll exactly what they're looking for. Then they know what to expect them for. They'll open it up, have a quick look. Yep, all good. Or I need to do X, Y, and Z, and off they go to the next one. So it's but obviously, you know, if you know, backyard beekeeping is a bit different, isn't it? The enjoyment of it, the learning as well, because every time you take a frame out, there's different things to look at, different things to see on it. Like you said, you're always looking for, so during your inspections you'd be looking for, ideally you want to know that the hive is queen right, that it has a queen, then she's okay and she's laying. So when you do your weekly inspection, you'll be taking a frame out and assessing what's there. You're looking for eggs. Eggs mean that the queen's there and she's been there within the last 3 days, because it takes 3 days for an egg or a larva to hatch from its egg.
Yeah.
Ideally, you want to see brood in all stages, so little tiny brood, some big fat brood, some capped brood. You're also looking for signs of any disease, so there's a few things to keep an eye out for when you're doing your inspections, and when you do some training or speak to have a bee buddy, a mentor who can help you. They'll explain all those little bits to you.
Yeah.
Just make sure that they're all okay, really. Yeah, and they've got enough space as well. I think this time of year is one of the things is the colonies are expanding really, really quickly. The queen's laying up to sort of 2,000 eggs a day, so there's potentially 2,000 extra bees coming along every day. Worker bees only last for 6 weeks, so some of them will be dying off as well. So you won't be kind of increasing quite as much as 2,000 a day, but you know, you could be 1,200, 1,500 extra bees a day. So they need enough space. Jamie, your hive's probably just in the brood box at the moment, so there's no supers on top. Yeah. So initially, just that brood box gives them enough space, but they'll soon fill that out, and then start adding boxes on top to give them that extra space to store things in.
Mm. You keep mentioning capped. I'm trying to talk as if I don't know anything about it, if you know what I mean. But when you say capped, what do you mean? What do you mean by capped?
Okay, yeah. So I'll go through like the life cycle of the bee. So the queen will lay. She's got a really longer body than the other bees. She's a little bit bigger, but not much bigger than the other bees. But she's got a long body, so she reaches back down into the bottom of the cell, and she'll lay an egg. And initially, the egg will be vertical for first day. Second day, it'll be kind of that angle. Third day, it'll be on its side, so you can tell really how fresh those eggs are. And then the larvae will hatch, and the bees will feed them, royal jelly initially, and then other things as they go. And once the larvae gets up to a certain size, the bees will cap the top, so they'll cover the top of that cell with wax. And it's a little bit like if you think about the butterfly. So the caterpillar then forms a chrysalis, and there's this kind of sealed itself in that chrysalis while it transforms goes to that metamorphosis from the caterpillar to the butterfly. And the bee goes through the same process, except that it's in its little cell. The cell gets capped, the bee goes through the transformation, and then once the bee is ready to go, it will kind of nibble its way out of that capping on the top of the cell. And you'll see the bees emerge. So when you're doing your inspection, quite often you'll probably see, there's 2,000 potentially bees coming out every day. You'll see a few of them come out, And you can see the ones that have just hatched as well, because they're kind of a little bit kind of grayer and they're a bit furrier. So they're kind of just finding their feet in the first few hours. But yeah, so that's what a capped brood is the bees that are going through that that process. Is it pupating, I think, when they change from a grub into an actual, the bee that we know. And then so then during that 6 weeks of sort of life for the worker bees, they do various things. They roughly go through the first few weeks of working in the hive, so being house bees, where they will initially they'll clean out their own cell, so that cell's now available again for the queen to come and lay another egg in almost straight away. They'll do jobs around the hive, like cleaning, feeding other bees. There's also some bees will be sort of undertakers, so if a bee dies in the hive, that will be carried out, and then they'll sort of and then they'll go and they might be guard bees for a bit, so they'll be hanging around the entrance, just making sure that no one's causing any trouble, coming to attack or rob the hive, because sometimes you get other colonies might come and rob your colony. Some things like that happen in certain instances. So you'll have guard bees at the entrance, and then you'll also have those bees that are putting stuff away. So the bees that fly, they'll fly out and collect pollen and nectar and things and come back to the hive, and the nectar gets passed from bee to bee from the mouths and then it goes and gets stored as nectar. And eventually, once the water content of the nectar drops to about, I think it's 18%, that's kind of when it becomes honey. And once there's cells full of honey, the bees will put a wax capping over the top of that. So that's another sort of capped scenario. It's quite obvious. You can see the difference. So like a capped cell with a bee inside of it is like a coffee coloured, like a honey brown colour, whereas cells with honey in them are normally like a light whitey creamy colour over the top of the colour. But it's so it's there's those things. What else were we talking about? I've forgotten where we were at.
So the bees, they kick out the dead.
Oh, that's right. Yep. And then so there's undertaker bees, and then they spend 2 or 3 weeks foraging. So they don't just hatch and fly off and that kind of thing. So they'll spend the last few weeks of their working life as foragers, and heading out each day, collecting pollen, water, nectar, anything else. Propolis. So propolis is something that bees use. I think it's tree sap, but they use it to they line the inside of the hive with it, and they fill any gaps with it, and it's got antibacterial properties to it, so it kind of keeps the hive clean, so hygienically. And so it's a multi-use thing that they bring into the hive and use sort of building the hive as well. So if there's something called bee space, which I haven't mentioned, but when you like designing hives, you need to consider bee space. And bee space is roughly 8 millimeters, give or take a millimeter or so, and it is enough space for bees to travel around in or travel through.
Right.
And if it's bigger than that, they will fill the space with wax comb and draw comb in that space. And if it's smaller than that, they will put propolis in it and fill it up with propolis. So that's why the frames sit in the hive, and either side and around the frame there's space, so the bees can walk along the walls, along the edge of the frames, and they won't fill that up. Normally they won't fill that up with comb and things. So it's one of the kind of it's one of the kind of foundations of beehive design and making. So whether you've got Langstroth frames or national frames or whatever it is, all the gaps around the frames will be about 8 millimeters. So that's quite crucial. And it means, so beekeeping with frames, the reason that we do it on these frames is so that if you think back, sort of before boxes of bees, when we had sort of skeps, sort of the classic sort of woven basket, upside down basket full of bees. So a skep is kind of what people sort of 200-300 years ago would have kept bees in. And what happens when you want to harvest honey is you have to go in and you literally you scrape it, and you're destroying the hive that the bees have created, or all the comb that they've created inside the hive. And the bees are, having to start again, or, it might actually destroy the colony. So it's not a great way of doing it. And then I think it's about 100, might be 170 years ago, something like that. The frames were developed because they're a way that you can actually take things out of the hive, put things back in the hive. You can do inspections and return it to how it was, and it just makes beekeeping much easier from a beekeeping point of view, but also from the bees' point of view. It means that they're not starting again every time they're doing it. So that's why frames. That's why we keep bees on frames, and all around the frames there's this bee space that we have, so that they can travel about and move freely within the hive, but without plugging it up. Sometimes you might put things happen. Sometimes you might put a super on top of the thing and forget to put frames in it or something like that, and the bees get in there. You come back a week later and there's all this wild comb. Well, you probably see pictures of it online of really organically comb and things, which is what they would make naturally if they didn't have frames to kind of guide them. And it's fantastic. One of the things you can do is you don't have to put foundation into your frames. You could put frames in without foundation, and the bees will draw comb themselves, as long as they have something little a starter strip just to get them going, and they will draw in that thing. But if you do that, try not to put too many frames in that are all foundationless. Otherwise, they could go build across the frames. So the best way to do it, so if you have two frames of two drawn frames with comb on them, move them apart, put another frame inside with no comb, no foundation in it, and they will fill that nice and straight, because of the frames on either side will kind of guide them.
If you did a whole lot, you'd have to pick about 5 up at the same time. Because they've gone that way.
So last year I had a situation like that where I had 3 frames stuck together with this huge wodge of comb in the middle, and the queen was laying in there, so I didn't want to just rip it out. And that on the other side of the queen excluder, let all the bees hatch out naturally, and then let the bees fill that with honey, and then harvest that. But it was a pain. So the comb. I love comb. Eating in the comb, but that's if you want, you always don't want to use foundation if you're wanting to harvest comb, to eat the comb, because it's got fire in it and all that kind of thing. So
so when we see jars of honey with bits of comb in it, it's completely naturally made by the bees. It's not foundation.
No foundation in it.
I see. Right.
You can get frames that are specially designed. They have like a cassette in them. So they have a bunch of cassettes in them that you can put that in. The bees will fill that with comb and honey, and then you can just harvest each one at a time.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
But the reason we put the foundation is to give them a good head start, because that would take them so much longer to draw it from nothing.
It takes them longer. I mean, it doesn't take them that much longer, because it's only just a sheet of wax where they're actually creating like the 3D. So it does give them a head start. It just makes the frames more robust. So when you're doing your inspections, if you hold your frame like that, you have the risk of the frame the comb falling out. You also have the risk of actually dropping eggs and larvae and things out too. So you should always, as you know, kind of do
that funny spinny thing.
So you keep the frame vertical rather than ever putting it on its side like that. So you can then see both sides. So I can see the bee side, and then you can see the comb side. But without doing that. So so it just makes for a more robust frame. That's going to, the comb's going to stay in there more easily, less likely that it's going to fall out. And if you leave them to do it naturally, they will create like a big curved one. They won't fill all the way down to the bottom.
Right.
So another reason why the foundation helps.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So your buzz box is a national hive.
That's right.
Is there there's other types, isn't there?
There are quite a few actually. There's I don't know, probably a dozen different types of hive that you can get, and they all have different size frames, specifically for them. The most common worldwide, the most common system is called Langstroth, and that's just after the guy that developed that thing. But that Langstroth's used, sort of pretty much everywhere else other than here. And here in the UK, I mean, we do use it here in the UK, but it's just not as popular as the UK national. So the national is like a standard design that is, so anything that's national will be compatible with other national stuff. So BuzzBox Hive will be compatible with other hives that are also national.
Yeah.
They use the same frames. The main thing is the frame. The frame is the difference, and then the hive needs to work with that frame in terms of making sure that the bee space is correct around the frames. But yeah, the UK national is literally like a national standard. Like you get BS blah 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 for whatever it is.
Oh right, yeah.
National standard size, and yeah, it's been around for quite a long time. It works really well. The BBKA and the training and most of the local associations around the country will be using nationals. So it makes the most sense really here. But if BuzzBox wasn't here, it'd probably be a Langstroth system.
And so you don't use Langstroth ones?
I've got both. So I've got Langstroth personally. So when I started, the first hive that I had was a Langstroth. I don't know the exact numbers, but I think it's probably around 10% of the country use Langstroth. So that that sort of thing. But yeah, so I've got some hives that are Langstroth, and I've also got some that are national, which is fine. But it is easier to have one type because, for example, I had a national hive that ended up being queenless. So there's something happened to the queen. There weren't any eggs in the hive. So I thought, okay, I want to move a frame with eggs on into this hive for them to raise a new queen with. So they need to be compatible. I couldn't have done that with a Langstroth frame into a national hive. So that's. So, but because 80% in the UK use national, it's easy to get new frames and that kind of thing. There's lots of compatibility. So if you were getting another hive from someone else and they already had a hive with bees in that you were adopting or that kind of thing, more often than not it'd be a national. So yeah,
I suppose just like mine, because I bought my bees from what are they called? Essex Happy Bees, I think they're called, aren't they?
Happy Bees, yeah.
And they come on frames, don't they? So they come. My postman was a picture when I saw him standing at my door last Wednesday morning. It was so funny. I was waiting for him. I was going, come on. Normally he comes about 1 o'clock, but he was there at 9:30. He was
first
stop to get
these. Take them off me.
I thought it was brilliant, and he rang the bell.
You can hear them in the box, can't you?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And he went, he said, I got some bees for you, and he's like,
yeah. No, it's amazing.
But so I got my colony. I bought my colony, which you can do. You can do other things, but I bought mine. So in that big green box that was sent, a travel box, isn't it? It's like a corrugated plastic thing.
Yeah.
There was 5 frames in there.
Sounds right. Yeah, sounds about right.
So what I think it is, so there would be a couple of capped brood frames, a couple and some honey and some with food on as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so ideally, that's what you want, some of everything in that nuke colony. So they call it a nucleus colony.
Yeah.
Everyone calls it a nuke in beekeeping. But yes, that's basically everything that you would find in a full-size hive, but just condensed down onto 5 frames. So yeah, you probably have a frame of eggs, a couple of frames with capped brood on them, and then a couple of frames with stores, so honey and pollen and nectar and everything. And so that's everything that you need. And then what happens is you then, as I saw in your video, Jamie, you obviously put them into the middle of your brood box and put fresh frames on either side just to fill out on either side. and then yeah, and then the bees, obviously you've got bees hatching. You've got once they hatch, those cells become available, so the queen will then lay in those. So you've got this little conveyor belt of new bees coming all the time, and the existing bees, they'll start building comb. So what a lot of people do actually is at this kind of point, at the point you're at now, Jamie, is actually they'll start feeding the bees with some like 1-to-1 sugar water mix in the feeder, the yellow feeder that we've got. So you can, and that what that will do is it'll just help them, because obviously drawing comb out to kind of those fresh frames with foundation on, the energy that they need to draw that comb out, it takes a lot for them to do that. So if you're giving them this sort of sugar water, it helps those bees just gets them going and helps them draw those frames up quicker. Because the quicker the frames get drawn out, the queen will then start laying, and so there will be more bees, and it'll just accelerate the whole process. So you'll kind of and it's because the more space she has, the more she'll lay, and obviously, but you need the frames to be ready for her.
I'll do that. Thank you. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I'll just leave them to it.
I mean, you can buy like a syrup. They call it syrup, like specially formulated and all this kind of thing. But really, it's sugar and water is a good one for them. And you'll see the bees come up into the feeder. They'll collect it all, take it back down, and it just helps them get going in these early days when the nuke is trying to expand. The colony needs to expand and kind of build the infrastructure that it needs in the hive. So it gives them a little boost.
So will they rather go to that than go out and forage, or will half and half?
It'll be both. So the house bees will, they'll kind of see it as like a nectar store. They'll use it as that. So so they'll still fly and forage, and they still need to bring in pollen and water and all. Yeah, no, it doesn't stop them from flying at all.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Brilliant. I'll do that. That's my job for the morning. Fantastic.
Has the ban of the pesticides had any effect this year? Because obviously I've noticed a lot more insects around this year. Has that had an effect on your colonies at all?
I'm not sure exactly. I had, I can't really tell. In where my bees are in Roxwell, which is near Chelmsford, we've not had any sign of it. A couple of years ago, someone else in the Chelmsford Beekeeping Association had some problems. He lost, I think, sort of a dozen hives because of a local farmer had sprayed something, he thinks. But unless you send dead bees off to be analysed, you're not really sure what the reason is.
Oh, wow.
But I've not personally had anything like that happen. So I'm not sure. I think it depends where you are, I think, in the country, and sort of what's being farmed as to what pesticides might be used. Yeah. But you say you've got more insects this year, you think?
Oh, definitely. Like the front of my car is covered in dead insects.
Okay, yeah.
The last few years, there's been none whatsoever.
Definitely. I can remember when we were kids, it was always covered in insects, but it hasn't been for a long, long time.
No. They do a survey, don't they? Like a national survey where they ask you to count the number on your number plate.
Yeah.
Today? Yeah, it's the number of dead bugs on your number plate. And I can't remember what time of year it is or kind of when it happens, but I have heard about that obviously it has been a massive decline, over the last sort of 20, 30 years. But because obviously number plates are pretty much all exactly the same size. This is a great way of checking.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Yeah. So on the same sort of side of things, what about climate change? Does that have much of an effect on the way the weather's constantly different year to year? I mean, last year it was wet for 6 months. Yeah. This year it's wall-to-wall sunshine.
Yeah, no, it has a massive effect on beekeeping. I mean, I think it's exactly like gardening. They're so closely linked anyway. But with on the beekeeping side, so last year when we had all that rain and stuff, the bees don't fly as much in the rain. They tend not to. So there were sometimes I heard some cases where the bees had starved. So they obviously not flying, not getting enough food into the colonies. That kind of thing can happen. And then the flip side this year. So because we've had such a bright, dry sort of start to the year, this sort of spring, everything's a little bit ahead of where it was, or where it kind of should be, I suppose you should say. I think those kind of, the set thing where you go, this month you do this month that, this month, it's kind of gone out the window now, and you have to just adapt to what's actually going on outside, because it is so different from year to year. It's much more erratic than it was, and it must be the same for you guys growing, from a growing point of view. I think you can't look at the old textbooks and say, okay, well, 100 years ago it was, you got to sow seeds on this date and this time.
Yeah.
Just don't get seasons anymore.
There isn't set seasons, is there?
No.
I mean, like,
they all do merge.
With the bees this year, they've all started swarming really early. So, I mean, swarming is a big thing that we haven't actually mentioned tonight. But
yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, so swarming's a way that bees naturally reproduce. Obviously, the queen's always laying eggs, and you're reproducing within the colony. But when you want to reproduce colonies, and sort of, what happens is that if the colony gets to a point where they're strong enough, they're big enough, and they've got enough bees, and they feel like they're strong enough, they will swarm. So what will happen is they'll start prepping. It takes them a few weeks to get ready to do this, but they will start to raise new queens. And so on the comb, it's a lovely hexagonal shapes, and then you'll see one great big one hanging off the side of your frame. It looks like a peanut shell, and that is a queen cell. So that's a big cell that the bees are specially designed for raising a new queen. So the existing queen will lay in that cell, and then that larvae is the one that will become a new queen, and she'll get fed the royal jelly all the way through. And once that cell is capped and the queen is then pupating, developing into an actual queen, the flying bees, the bees that are normally foraging, and the existing queen will fly off. They will leave the hive and they will go off to try and find a new place to create a new colony. And that's what we know is swarming. So there'll be this big ball of bees, the sky will go dark, it'll be Beamageddon, and there'll be thousands. Swarming is actually like quite a thing to see if you get to see one. But they fly off to try and find a new colony, and what's left is all of the house bees will be the kind of the worker bees that were inside the hive. They stay behind, and their job is to raise the new queen. So she will hatch out, and once she hatches, actually what happens is they normally raise multiple queens. So there's 3 or 4, maybe 5 queens will hatch out, and they all hatch out at a very similar time. And it actually becomes a big royal rumble where they fight to the death, and eventually there's one queen left. Yeah, and so she's obviously the strongest, fittest of the queens they've raised, and she then wins the right to live for the next 4 or 5 years while she's and is sort of queen of that colony. So she will then go on a mating flight. Once she's strong enough, she'll fly out and go on this mating flight and come back to the hive, and then sort of a week or so later will be, start her life as a laying queen, and that will be her life. She will just literally lay eggs, all day long. Queens last up to 6 years, I believe. The longest I've had one was 3, they just lay eggs. And as beekeepers, what we do is, because it's quite important to try and keep tabs on your queen, and kind of it's good to know how old she is, so that you know that they might swarm this year, that kind of thing. So you can put a coloured dot on your queen. So if you can, there's a little device you can use. So there's various ones actually, but you can collect the queen, have her in this little device, and just put a dot of colour on her back. It helps to find her in the hive, because obviously if you've got 60,000 bees in the hive, yes. And she doesn't want to be seen normally, she'll kind of try and keep out of sight and hide. So have a little coloured dot on her really helps to find her. But also the colour of the dot lets you know when she was born in terms of the year. So
Mm.
bees born this year will have a blue dot on them. Bees born, or queen bees last year, will have a green dot on them.
Yeah, mine's green.
The trap on them. Yeah. So she should be an overwintered nuke is what you've got, Jamie. So that's nice, strong queen, strong colony, ready to go for the winter, for the summer.
So that's how, because you can buy queens, can't you? So that's obviously how people breed queens. When they're about to, when they all hatch, they just go in and take the spare ones out and leave one.
There's a lot more to it than that. It's
Okay.
really quite specialized. So they have special. So if you can raise your own queen. I mean, you could do it if you wanted to, raising your own queens. And what you do is you create the situation in the hive where the bees think that they're queenless, so they then want to raise new queens. You can get special frames that have queen cups on them, sort of man-made queen cups on them, and so then you get the queen to lay in there, and then you put that frame into a colony with no queen in it, and they will raise queens in there. It's a thing. There's some people, their business is making up nukes, so they'll create nukes. Obviously, they've got to raise enough queens for the number of nukes that they need. So there is a whole industry in that too. But it is something that and once you get into beekeeping, it's one of the avenues you can kind of head down. Is queen rearing is a kind of a quite a special corner of beekeeping. Really interesting side of things. But there's lots of different things you can do. I mean, even on the kind of related to beekeeping side of things. So if you're harvesting honey, but you can also harvest beeswax. Beeswax you can make your own. Cosmetics, furniture polishes, all sorts of things with beeswax, pollen. So some people, you can harvest pollens as the bees are coming into the hive with pollen on their legs. You can have a little device that they go through, and that just bumps the pollen off. And so you can collect a big tray of pollen. People like to have that. Has sort of medicinal purposes, so like sort of well-being, and I don't know exactly what it
I think
all
they
is.
have it in posh restaurants at the minute, don't they? It's quite fashionable.
Yeah. Pollen, it has something sprinkled on ice cream and stuff.
Yeah.
Help with hay fever.
Yeah.
So
the hay fever side of things. That's from what I understand. Obviously, local honey is sort of, if you have honey from your area, meant to help with your hay fever. And I think that's true if you suffer from hay fever from a flowering plant of like trees or whatever it is. But if you have hay fever from grass pollen, then I don't think it helps as much. It's not the same. Bees don't collect that sort of anything to do with grass pollen. So, but
Just going back to swarming quickly again. So I had somebody call me the other day. It's a friend, and their neighbour, she sent me a picture saying, "Oh, do you want these? Or do you know anybody who wants them?" And there was a swarm on a fence. She said, "Oh, I think the builders disturbed them." And I said, "No, they don't disturb them. That's what they do." And I was trying to explain to her. She said, "Oh no, they've been disturbed. They were in the chimney." And all right, but I couldn't do it. I just thought, "Oh, I don't know. I'm so new to it. I just no, I daren't."
No, it's definitely a thing. Like collecting swarms is I'd say not an easy way to do it, but it's a one way to get bees.
Yeah.
They're it's actually not too difficult once you kind of know what you're aiming for. I mean, if you can get the queen into a box, all the other bees will go into that box. And they just go in. You've probably seen videos of them all marching into a box. So it is great. But also if you give them the option, so if you can get close to wherever they are with a hive, and you've got frames with obviously like used frames in there, so they'll smell that, and they'll go in on their own accord as well. So, but bees that are swarming, they are the most docile that they will ever be. So what they do just before they do actually swarm is the bees that fly out, they will go and gorge themselves on honey and fill themselves to the brim, because they're not actually sure when they're next going to eat. So they eat as much as they possibly can, and then off they go. and all that their focus is on finding somewhere that they could create a new hive in. So they'll go and hang out on a bush somewhere, probably not too far from the hive that they've left, and they will send out scout bees, and those scout bees will be looking for potential venues, location for the next hive, and then they return and they are probably do some, I don't know exactly how to communicate where this is, probably some glorified waggle dance, but that's how they do it. So when they're in that ball hanging from a tree or on a fence post or wherever it is, they're really, really docile, and you can scoop them up with your hands, without too much thing. I haven't been brave enough to do that myself yet, but I'm quite allergic. So I try to avoid getting stung. But
allergic to bees. You're a beekeeper.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been kind of diagnosed as such officially, but the older I get, the more susceptible I am to things like hay fever. And every time I get stung, I swell up like a bit more. Each time I get stung, I swell up a bit more. So last year I got stung on my lip, and I was like an elephant man for a bit. Yeah.
Wow, was it?
Yeah. So, but I mean, I don't think I'm at the stage where I need to be dialing 999 or anything, or having I'll probably get an EpiPen or something. But it's but I'd rather carry on. Just make sure I suit up well and make sure the zips are down.
I think you see people, don't you, on here and on TV that are just nothing, and you think, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Just short sleeves and nothing. And you think, oh my God.
Yeah. No. It's not for me. I'm not that brave. I mean, people do it, but no, I don't fancy getting stung. But,
I've never been stung, never. So I don't.
Okay.
I don't know what it's like.
Well, there's only two kinds of beekeepers. There's those that have been stung and those that will get stung. So it won't be long.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
I must admit, when I first moved the from the nuke into the hive, I climbed back over the fence and I stood there and started unzipping. I thought, hold on a minute, I can hear something. So I was like, oh God, just yeah. The last time I walked away a bit further and made sure they was all gone.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the worst thing could be having a bee inside your veil. Obviously, like inside, like what do you do? Yeah.
Someone also said to me that if you do get stung, don't squash it, because if you squash it, that sends out a pheromone and all his mates will come along.
It does. So they release a pheromone, like a sort of attack pheromone. So if the colony is being attacked, then the bees will kind of release a pheromone to say, come on, we've got to defend the hive type thing. The sting itself. So if you see the sting when you get stung, Jamie, the bee will sting you, and then she will try and get away, but she will, because the sting has barbs on it. It'll stay. The sting will stay in your skin, and she will actually like rip her butt off, getting away from it, and she will die. But the thing has a little pouch. Like the Google Maps pin. It looks like that. So this pin obviously sticks in you, and then the sac bit has a little muscle on it, and it does this, and it's just pumping venom into you each time. So if you can get like a blade and just scrape it off, rather than
don't go squeezing it.
Yeah, don't do that.
That's for the poison.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Check more of it into you. So
God.
use your hive tool. Just to scrape it off if you
hive
get stung.
tool's brilliant. What a fantastic thing.
Amazing.
Amazing.
Probably good for gardening as well.
I've used it once and it was absolutely brilliant. I went to try and pull the frames out and it was stuck. It only been 3 days and they'd stuck it down already, so I just give it a little snap. It's brilliant.
That's the propolis that they use to stick everything together. Yeah. So no, it's great. They're really good hive tools. One of the you probably did on your training, and you're told you should never put it down. You should always have it in one of your hands.
Yeah.
Your hive tool while you do. Which is
you need a holster.
Holster
on your belt.
Yeah, like some people got a belt with a big magnet on it, so you can just stick it on your belt like Batman.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah. To be honest, I did put mine down because I was focusing on I've only picked up a few frames, so I was focusing on holding that one. So I put it down,
Yeah,
and so I had good grip on
yeah,
them. But I put it on
yeah.
the corner of the hive, so it was right there if I wanted it.
The thing is,
It's a
you put it
brilliant
down
thing.
and it's something just vanishes. Like you'll lose it, and you'll be like, where is that? And at the
I
moment,
know.
you're able to find it. So yeah, but,
I need to buy 2 or 3 more and just have them kicking around everywhere.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Some people have
Like
them.
the beekeeping equivalent of a hand fork in the garden.
That's a
Yeah,
hori knife,
Or a
Mark. Honestly,
hori,
it's
yeah.
the equivalent
yeah,
of hori. So just explain the hive tool,
yeah. Okay.
Mark. See what's.
Oh,
Have
I
you
haven't
got
got
one?
one to hand. I should have had one to hand. But it is so it's a flat piece of metal. One end has got a hook on it, and the other end has got kind of a big square flattened chisel with sort of it's kind of sharpened on 2 sides. And so multiple uses, but normally you'd use the chisel part. You'd kind of put it in between 2 frames, and you can leave the frames apart, so you can kind of move them around in the hive. And then you'd use the other end with the hook on it to get underneath the end of the lug on the frame, and
Yeah.
lever off the next frame just to just lever the frames out. So that's the classic use of the hive tool, but it's also used for all sorts of things. So in your hive, you'll have the different boxes, and then underneath the roof, you'll have the crown board. And quite often, the bees will build a little bit of comb on the bottom of the crown board. So when you open up the hive, you take that off, and there'll be some comb on there, and you can use your hive tool to then scrape that burr. It's called burr comb. Scrape that off, and then just keep the hive sort of tidy, if you like. So there's lots and lots of uses for a hive tool.
Yeah.
It's really really useful.
Brilliant thing.
So essential piece of for thing. Probably more useful than the smoker, really. I mean, depending on your bees, you might not actually need to use your smoker.
I didn't even, to be
Yeah,
honest, I didn't even think about even taking a smoker on Sunday,
yeah,
and they didn't come to me veil or anything, nothing,
yeah.
not a single one.
The bees from Cheap at Cheap's the chap who you bought your bees from.
Yeah.
Happy Bees in Essex. His bees are lovely. Really, the temperament's great. They're really friendly. So yeah. So I mean, with the smoker thing, just explain to people that don't know. So you use that smoker to obviously puff smoke into or around the hive while you're doing inspections. And what that does is all it does is just masks the pheromones that the bees are giving off. So if the bees, we talked about them getting, being really defensive. If they feel like they're being attacked, they'll release this pheromone to say, "Come on, we need to go and defend the hive." So it just diffuses any sort of messages that the bees are sending, a little bit, and just keeps them a bit more calm. But it doesn't, put them to sleep or anything along those lines. All it does is just masks the smells that are going on in the hive of infection. And yeah, it's not essential to use smoke. And I think generally you should try to use as little as possible, because it does upset that sort of equilibrium that sort of atmosphere that they build in the hives.
Yeah.
So yeah. But yeah, sometimes, I mean, one of the things, sometimes talking about kind of having bees in your garden or near your house and things, and people think that you're going to completely overrun with bees if you have, you have a box of 60,000 bees in the end of the garden, but in reality, those foragers, which is only probably, I don't know, if you've got 60,000 bees in there, there's probably only, I don't know, 25,000 that are flying at any one time. So they'll fly up and then disperse out, and they'll cover a 3-mile radius from the hive, which is quite a huge area, really.
Massive area, isn't it?
Yeah, for a tiny little bee to go off cover. So
I wonder they only last 6 weeks.
Yeah, like running a marathon every day.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they disperse, wherever things are. So you don't have loads of bees just hanging around your garden, cause trouble or anything, And yeah, unless you actually go down to the hive, you barely know that they're there. Go on.
I was just about to say, when I go down to look at mine, there's probably, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 milling around outside, in and out, and then, but as soon as they come out, they've gone.
Yeah.
And then they come in and find a way and go in. So it's not like you say, it's not like a big swarm hanging around outside the hive all the
No,
time.
no. Sometimes on a like a warm afternoon, you do get more bees flying around the hive, but that's purely it happens for about an hour or so, sort of after lunch, and that is new bees doing their orientation flights. So they'll come out, they'll then fly around the hive, and they'll be checking out the area, working out where things are for certain landmarks. Maybe there's a house or a tree or a fence or that sort of thing, a shed, and they do these loops around the hive, getting bigger and bigger, kind of find their bearings. And I think they're also probably kind of sort of guessing, but I think when they're using the Earth's magnetic field for navigation, they're obviously trying to sort of set themselves up so okay, right, we know where we're going, this is what it feels like, and this is the direction, what different directions are and things. So there are times during the day it does get quite busy around the hive, but it's purely that it's quite a short time, but it's quite fun to watch them. It's good.
So if Joe Bloggs came to you and said, "Oh, I'd love to have some bees, but my garden's not very big," how big does someone's garden have to be, do you think?
I get asked this a lot, and it's really hard to answer, to give you like a number, but I'd say probably like a 30-foot garden, maybe it's probably the smallest. You wouldn't, I mean, the beehive itself takes up 50 centimeters by 50 centimeters, so it's a small footprint for the hive. And you want a little bit of space around the hive while you're doing your weekly inspection. So you take the roof off, you're going to put the roof down next to it, you're going to think. So you probably need 2 or 3 square meters physically for the hive to be and to have some space around it. But other than that, down a quiet corner of your garden, you could be, by a shed or by a fence. They don't need a huge amount of space. In my own garden, I've got a hive that's next to my little workshop, and I've got a drop saw that I use quite regularly, that's less than 2 meters from the hive, and I don't shoot up or anything for that. So, it's varies. But what you can, if you do have a small garden, what you can do is you can be a little bit clever with maybe planting some shrubs to give them a little bit of privacy, if you like. Give them a quieter corner, maybe a fence panel, just to give them a little bit of shelter or something. But you don't need a huge garden. And like I said, they kind of, once they leave the hive and they fly off, they fly up and out and off they go. And disperse into the surrounding area.
I think that's another bit of a myth, isn't it? That if you've got one in your garden, every flower and plant's going to have 10 bees on it.
Yeah,
all around your garden.
No, not at all, no. And I believe that when a bee is foraging and off she goes to go and forage, she will actually, on any one flight, she will only collect nectar from one type of plant. So if there's lavender, for example, she will go and fill her baskets and fill her nectar stomach with lavender specifically, and bring that back. So it's quite easily you can have I think obviously some of the really new build gardens are really quite small and compact and sort of plugged in, but if you've got a little bit of space, then, yeah, absolutely fine. I mean, I've seen people keeping bees on balconies, so that you don't need a lot of space, but it's probably more the consideration of who's around.
Balcony,
kind of thing.
So on a flat.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I don't know if it was in the UK or somewhere else in Europe, but yeah, absolutely, yeah. And things like chickens and dogs and things don't really have any effect on them. My dog was quite interested initially, got stung on the nose once, and he now gives it a nice wide berth.
So you won't go there anymore.
No, you learn quite quickly.
Definitely. Yeah. I've heard there's a thing where if you want to block their flight path, you can put a fence panel or something right in front of the door, and they'll go out and just go straight up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's it. So yeah, put your hive next to a fence, and then they'll go up and then out, rather than flying kind of out at sort of head height. But Yeah, I mean, you'll quite quickly, when you site your hive and when you get that bees in, they'll quite quickly sort of establish routes that they come to the hive. So if you have lots of tall trees, they might not travel out in that direction as much. But you can then, you can tweak and adjust what they're doing. So if they were flying in a direction that you didn't want them to fly in, you can put something in the way, and they will go around that and normally fly up and out. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
Put a polite sign up and say, "Please don't fly through here." Yeah.
So tell us a little bit more about you then, Mark. Where are your bees? How many have you got? And about your bee experiences.
Okay. So at the moment, so I'm keeping bees with a friend of mine called Alex, and he grows vegetables. You guys might know him. He calls himself the Essex Allotment. So
Oh
he
yeah.
grows vegetables like veg boxes and all sorts of other things. So he's got 3 acres on a farm not far from Chelmsford, so just on the other side of Chelmsford from where I am. And so there I think we've got 6 colonies there at the moment, all in sort of various states. And yeah, so that's them over there. One's in my garden. I've had in my garden for about 4 years in the garden. So the first hive that I had was actually a flow hive, which is an Australian
Oh,
design.
I've seen them.
Yeah, so I was gifted that initially, and so that's the first hive that I had myself, and yeah, absolutely brilliant, really really good hive, loved it, and that's kind of what's got me absolutely well and truly hooked into beekeeping. And then after during COVID, I was working in the bicycle industry in design and sourcing of bikes for like Evans Cycles and people like that. Sports Direct and the likes. But COVID kind of changed everything that I was doing, so I had to look for something new. So in 2023, I actually started a hive business making hives. So I was making
Oh wow.
it's called Nucci Hive. It's still around at the moment. So it's NOOCHII, Nucci, which means honeybee in the local language in Zimbabwe where I grew up. But so I was making these hives which are called long hives. So the
Right.
buzz box is a stack of boxes, vertical,
Yeah.
whereas the hive is a horizontal box. So it's kind of like a coffin. Some people call them coffin hives, horizontal or long hives. So instead of having all your frames stacked up in boxes, you just have one really long box and have all the frames laid out on the
Oh right.
so it's not a very common way of doing it, but there are benefits to it. If you don't have to lift the boxes off to do inspections, so that's one you don't need to do. So if you've got a bad back or struggle lifting or anything like that, then that's always quite good. And it's all on one level, really accessible. So I was making those hives. I'm still making them actually, but making Nushi hives for a few years now. And so the Nucci hives, as I said, they're not as common as the vertical stack of boxes. I mean, they're more common in sort of Western or Eastern Europe and America and Australia and places, but not as common here. And I've kind of, sort of this whole thing that we talked about at the beginning with sort of wanting to encourage more people to get into beekeeping. I realized quite quickly that the Nucci hive wasn't going to be, it's kind of a bit of a niche in beekeeping. So it's not something that many people are going to want to do straight away. So that's when I started thinking about the BuzzBox hive and how to, and the kit as well, what you would need with that if you were just starting out in beekeeping. And that's sort of when I sort of started thinking about and developing the BuzzBox stuff. But it's, and also the other thing about the Nucci hives is they're really quite expensive. So they're like, they're like 1,500 quid for a hive. So it's quite a lot before you get these and a suit and all the other bits and pieces as well. So there's a lot that goes into them. So yeah, so the BuzzBox then is much more affordable. So $495 you get hive, the brood box, the 2 supers, all of the frames that go in there with the foundation, You get your suit and your smoker, gloves, hive tool essential, and as well. So it's literally all of the bits that you need, and you just got to add bees. It's kind of, yeah. So it's kind of, the goal really is to make it nice and easy for people who are looking to get into it, and sort of provide that easy way in, without having to sort of do too much research and work out what you're doing.
So if somebody comes and gets a buzz box, come to me first because I've got a discount code for you.
Oh yeah.
But so are you going to go? There you go. There's your beehive and your suit. Bugger off! I don't want to see you again. Or
Yeah,
you,
that's
you
it
know.
basically. No, of course not. No, I mean, the hive and the kit really is kind of 1/3 of what you need to start beekeeping. So that's kind of one thing ticked off the list. The other side is the sort of the knowledge and the training and the experience of doing it. So on the website, which is buzzintobeekeeping.co.uk, I'm trying to build that up into a resource where there's information about all sorts of aspects of beekeeping. So it's, where to get bees, where to get training, where to go on a beekeeping experience course, how beekeeping works in the UK, the BBKA. There's a great system with local associations and sort of just an information source for people wanting to get into beekeeping, because don't want to just, it's completely the wrong, he has a hive, off you go, see you later type thing, So of the three things that you need, it's the hive and it's the training and the knowledge and that sort of thing, and then there's the bees. So those are the kind of the three things that you need to do it. So the happy bees in Epping, and where you got your bees and where I get mine from when I need them. So I've got his details on there, and a bunch of other bee suppliers as well on the website. So people are, I definitely want to try and guide people into it and make sure people, because we need more beekeepers, but we need them to stay around and keep beekeeping for a while. So the initial experience has to be a good one.
Definitely.
You can't, you don't want to sort of let people go and if they have a bad experience and don't enjoy it, then they're definitely not going to keep beekeeping. So it's important that all those things come together and help people on their way. So if anyone has any questions or info or anything like that, feel free to ask Jamie, because Jamie knows it all.
Oh, far from it. I do not know it all. Definitely not. Like I say, I'm learning all day, every day. I always used to listen to gardening podcasts every day, but I'm now on beekeeping podcasts, gradually edging away. But no, I keep popping backwards and forwards.
Well,
it's so interesting. There's so much to learn.
I think there's, I think gardeners, talking about more people into beekeeping, gardeners are really the people most likely to take up beekeeping. Gardeners are out there, you really appreciate and understand, the effect of biodiversity and what goes into it, and all of those things, and how they all feed off each other, don't they? So so I mean, that's why I went to the garden press the garden press event this year, because I thought, well, I'm not a gardener myself. I don't know that many people who are doing it.
Yeah, I
definitely think that if we're going to get more people to take up beekeeping, then gardeners. The gardeners are the ones who are sort of most likely to do it. So.
Did you hear that, Mark?
I would love to have bees. It's definitely something I'm going to start looking into, because it's just brilliant. And the amount of honey we eat as a family, if we could make our own, that'd be another thing we're self-sufficient for.
Oh, absolutely. And you can make money from it too. I mean, unless you can eat like 30 kilos of honey in a year, it's potentially.
But the price of a jar of honey now at a fair or something, £9 for a little jar. It's just.
I mean, when you compare it to Lidl or Aldi honey, then yes.
Oh yeah.
Jar. it's absolutely chalk and cheese. Like there's no comparison. The honey that you get in supermarkets is like a small percentage of honey. There's in terms of like the honey in the jar, there's only a little bit of honey in there. Most of it's syrup. Most of it's like a manufactured.
Is it
like
fake?
yeah.
Wow.
So the cheaper the honey on the supermarket shelf, the
I
less
never
honey.
knew that.
Yeah, no, it's there's a big. Well, I mean, there's always people lobbying to try and get this sort of get the labeling changed and get it to actually show what is in the jar. And also, if you read the labels on supermarket honeys, it'll say it's a blend of honeys from Europe or from outside of Europe. It's really, yeah, no, it's not real honey. And do a taste test. Like honestly, get one of those jars from your local farm shop or wherever it is, and actually, it's incredible. Something I didn't mention that you probably know, Jamie, is in your hive you've got say 10 frames in your super, and because the bees collect from a certain, depending on what's flowering each week or whenever it is, they're collecting nectar from that. So each frame in your thing will have a different type of honey. It'll taste slightly differently. Sometimes even different color honey in different frames on the hive. So it's amazing. So with the flow hive I had originally, that's the one you might have seen on Instagram where you can like literally like tap it and then honey flows out of the frame. And I was harvesting one day and I had kind of half filled the jar with what from one frame, moved the jar to the next frame, and there was 2 different honeys. You could see the different. Yeah, and that's because when they're collecting foraging for the nectar, it depends what's flowering at that time. You don't get that in Aldi.
Just, I know time's ticking on, but quickly with the flow hive, so that you put the key in, turn it, and does that slices down all the comb? Is that how it works?
Sort of. The way that it works is it's plastic comb.
Okay.
Each side of the comb is angled into the middle as it goes down, and then you put the key in the top and turn it. And what it does is each of the hexagons and each of the cells is made up of there's like strips of. How can I describe it? There's plastic strips, and each strip is a half of a cell.
Right.
And so there's another half of here. So when you turn the key, every other strip moves. So it moves like that.
Ah, I see.
Like that, and then the honey flows.
So it lets it. Oh, wow.
It's a genius system, and yeah, it's a great system. Not the cheapest of hive systems, but it really is good for what it does. One of the things to be aware of though is some like oilseed rape, for example, the honey is it's quite sticky. It's not as viscous, doesn't flow as easily. That can get stuck in the flow frame. So but that's only sort of this time of year. So what I did was I'd have a normal super on now, and then put the flow supers on. Once the oilseed rape's finished.
Oh, so that's national. So you can interchange normal supers and things with it.
No, my flow hive is a land.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah.
You might be able to get a national on the flow frame. Because it's just the super that you need, or it's just you don't need a brood box. You can have any brood box you want, but the supers you might put super or national.
Oh, wow, I didn't realise that. I thought it was the whole. You had to buy the whole thing.
No, just the supers. Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, I could keep going all night, as you can probably tell. I've had this as a bit of a one-on-one teaching lesson, to be honest. But it is 9:10, and I know we all have got lives and things. So this time and
We
the
just need to do a few
podcast.
questions.
Oh,
before
sugar,
we
yeah. I told everyone to put questions on, and I'm not asking them. Sorry.
So Sissy asked, are these bees born and raised here in the UK native?
So the UK in the UK, the native honeybee is actually a black honeybee. So there's a drive at the moment, or there has been for a while, to kind of repopulate the native one to the UK, to the UK islands, and so there are pockets of them around, and you can buy black bees. They aren't actually black; they're just a darker brown than the other ones. So most of the bees that we see are the European honeybees. So they've been brought in from Italy is one of the big places where they come from. But yeah, So they're pretty much the same. I think the black bee might be a tiny bit smaller, but they're basically the same, but just different colour.
Mark, what's the buck? Is it buckfast?
So Buckfast, yeah. So Buckfast, there's a monastery down in Devon, and so that's where the Buckfast bee has been bred. Yeah, so that's the kind of so there's so lots. That's really common sort of strain of honeybee here in the UK is Buckfast bee. So there was a monk, or I don't know if you call him monk. He's called Brother Adam, and he was the one who developed Buckfast bee. Yeah.
Brilliant.
So meant to be quite good honey producers and good temperament.
Yeah, I've heard that they're quite calm ones. Yeah.
That's what the ones from Happy Bees are, the Buckfast.
Are they?
Yep.
That's what we got. Oh, brilliant.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Yep.
And then another question is: do honeybees outcompete native bee species?
So I don't think they compete like directly with like solitary bees and things. I mean, they are, I suppose, for nectar and things. I don't know if they outcompete them. I think we're short on honeybee colonies in general.
Short on pollinators, full stop, really. I suppose.
Yeah. So yeah. So sorry, I don't know for sure, but I don't think that they.
They're not after the same sort of stuff.
There was a question I spotted in the comments quite a while back. So when you said about registering your colony, and do you need a license or anything like that?
So you don't need a license, but if you are a member of the BKA, you then have insurance as part of your annual membership. I think it's about £35 a year for the BBKA membership, and that, which is worth having. And then there's a thing called Bee Bank, which is run by the National Bee Unit, which I think is a part of DEFRA. That's where you register the number of hives you have and the location of the hives. So it's highly recommended that you do that, just from more from a disease point of view as well. So there are a few diseases that are what's called notifiable. So if your bees do get these particular diseases, then you need to report them. And so but yeah, that's the kind of thing that there's information about that on the website, and also if you join a club, or if you do some training, then you'll have information about all of this kind of thing. But joining the BBKA, becoming a member through your local association, is a really good way for all of this. It's a great system.
Yeah. One more quick thing we haven't mentioned, and that's the dreaded yellow-legged hornet.
Oh yes, yeah, another invasive species. So the Varroa mite arrived in the 90s, and we have the yellow-legged hornet arrived a couple of years ago. It's still really or the Asian hornet is what it was also called. They're calling it yellow-legged hornet now because that's what it looks like. It's easier to spot it. Yeah. It's very European hornet, but just is black with yellow legs rather than sort of yellowy color that the European hornet is. They're massive. Both hornets are. They're really big. But the Asian or the yellow-legged hornet actually feeds on bees. So it catches bees in the air and kills them and eats them. And they can eat, I've been told, 11 kilograms of bees. One hornet can eat that in a season. So it's quite a thing. And they're struggling. They're really struggling on the continent. So France is getting hammered by these yellow-legged hornets at the moment, and we're just trying to work out what the best course of action is to deal with them here. There is an app that you can get that you can then take photos and upload if you think you've got one. But at the moment, it's mainly like the Kent coast. There's been a couple of sightings in Essex, Kent, and Sussex, I think. So we're doing okay at the moment.
Mm.
But
they don't want you. They don't want you to squash them, do they? If they find one, you need to report it so they can follow it and see where the nest is.
That's the goal, is to try and find the nests and then destroy the nests. So that's the plan from the invasive species team. And and then there's other creepy crawlies that aren't here yet. One of them is called the small hive beetle, and that's quite big in America, Australia, and places. But that's not an issue here at the moment. But general consensus is that it'll get here at some point. And there's a few others as well that, again, people are sort of aware of, and but I think it's the same with anything and everything, with globalization. We're importing stuff, and it's going to get around the world. So the Australians actually didn't have Varroa until I think 18 months ago or 2 years ago, but they now have the Varroa mite in Australia. So it's now everywhere.
I guess.
Crazy.
Right, so it's now your turn for a lightning round of questions, Mark.
All right.
Slightly different, because obviously they're usually garden-based, so you've got some of your own personalised ones as well.
I don't think I'm going to do very well on a garden-based one, so that's good.
No, you should have done it on a garden base. See what you knew.
So first one, nice and easy. Your favourite band or artist?
Oh, I'm a sucker for Mumford and Sons.
Oh,
good. Banjo.
Great choice.
Yeah.
Second one is tea or coffee?
Tea in the morning, coffee in the afternoon.
I'm the same.
Yeah.
Definitely. Next one, beach or forest?
Beach. All day long, yeah. When I go to the beach, with my son and I go to the beach, we take garden shovels to the beach. We don't mess around with these plastic things.
Why doesn't everybody do that? It's so stupid. Like,
I know, it's
try and
ridiculous.
dig a big hole with those plastic.
A little thing that bends every time.
Yeah. No, we change the shape of the island every time we go down there. To redraw.
Build a new estuary.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's your go-to emoji?
Sorry, favorite emoji?
Yeah.
Well, apparently it's a
Got to
thumbs
be a
up.
B, surely.
Well, B and a thumbs up. My son showed me a meme that's a dad joke meme that the whole keyboard is just thumbs up everywhere.
If you could have only one snack for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Oh, it would be Reese's Pieces.
Honey on toast.
Oh, honey on toast as well. That's good. I think, I don't know. Tell you what you can do though, which is really good. Peanut butter and honey on toast.
Love it. Oh yeah, cool.
Nutty
peanut
butter.
Peanut butter, banana and honey. Oh God, it's getting better and better.
Finish the sentence. My perfect day would be.
Not having any kids around. Definitely sunny. Yeah, go and check out the bees. Don't know what else really. Yeah, beach day. I think a beach day is a good day.
Beach day, no kids. Check out the bees.
Yeah.
That's good. What is the bees' current favourite plant? So what are bees after right now?
Well, easy. Oilseed rape. They love that, and it's everywhere.
Yellow everywhere.
Yeah.
Next one, bee suit or plain clothes? You've already answered this. It's got to be bee suit.
All the way.
Yeah. What would you want your beekeeping legacy to be?
Wow, 100,000 1,000 beekeepers in the UK.
Yeah.
That'd be great. Yeah, that'd be good. Yeah, try and get more people into it. It's needed. And great fun, and you get honey at the end of it. And what's not to like?
Definitely. If money was no object, how many bees would you have?
A lot of bees. Yeah, an infinite number of bees, I think. But if money was no object, I think I'd have an apiary in different places in the world and have to just travel around and go and see them all.
Cool.
So, like, yeah, Mauritius and Hawaii, and everywhere. Great.
And a private jet to go with it so that you can get to it.
Yeah.
And final one, beeswax or honey?
Honey, yeah.
Every time.
All day long. Yeah. Honey and a spoon, please.
Honey and a spoon.
Oh, brilliant. Right, so Mark, if anybody wants to talk to you about a BuzzBox, what do they do? Where do they find you?
So you can get me on here at it's at Buzz Into Beekeeping. Website is buzzintobeekeeping.co.uk. Email address is mark@buzzintobeekeeping.co.uk. And DM me, or happy to chat on the phone. So if you I can give out my number if you send me a message. But yeah, there are no silly questions, so ask anything. Happy to help, as much or as little as you need. So
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Give Mark a buzz.
Give Mark a buzz. Oh, fantastic. Lovely. Thank you so much, Mark. It's been brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Like I say, it's been a bit of a one-on-one lesson for me.
No, that's great. Anytime, Jay. And
excellent.
Yeah, having me on, guys. It's been brilliant.
Thanks
Thank you so much.
Thanks for your time.
And I'll speak to you soon.
Cool.
Bye, Mark.
See you guys.
See you later, mate. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Cheers.
Bees, and some more bees.
Fascinating things, aren't they?
Definitely.
Absolutely fascinating things.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to look into doing, at the very least, beekeeping experience.
Yeah.
And just see whether I can hack the bees.
Well, you can come down here with me if you want. You can come do an inspection with me.
Yeah.
When you're about.
Yeah, definitely.
We'll go and open a hive.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely see whether it's something
because I think I would. There's some people that I've known. Well, I didn't know them, but I've been told that they've gone to it, suited up. Somebody's opened the hive and they've screamed and run away, said I can't go nowhere near it.
Yeah. So in the comments, there was people saying that it'd be good for George, and my dad is in the comments as well. And a couple of years ago, one of my mum and dad's friends have got hives, and George went round and he wouldn't go anywhere near it. Yeah. So that was a few years ago. So maybe he would when he's older. And I'd just put it right down the bottom of the garden.
The thing, if he can watch it from a distance, and then he'll gradually get closer and closer and closer.
Because he's afraid of everything. He's afraid of butterflies.
Yeah.
He just doesn't like insects. So I think it'd be another good thing to sort of help him come over a fear. Because, he's afraid of dogs. And now having Dash, he's completely lost that fear. So
exactly.
Maybe the bees would do something else. So it's definitely something I'll look into. It's just buying all the stuff, isn't it? And the course is quite expensive. But
that's the thing,
if you spread it out, you don't have to do it all in one.
No, I'd done my course last year, and and then got the bits this year, and done that. It is a lot of money if you say, right, I want to do it now all in one. Yeah, it's a big bit to throw out, But even if you don't do a course, you can do a taster day, and then, like you say, there's so much online. There's so many books. There's everything. There's so much to do. It's unbelievable. You don't have to do the whole course.
Yeah.
You don't have to do the whole course either. Where my club is, you can just go there. Say, we're having an apiary day on next Saturday. Come and do it and pay a £5 or something. Just do that. You learn so much.
I wonder whether there's a local club to be as well.
There will be. There definitely will be. Yeah, they're everywhere. Really are.
Sure, Mum
But
would.
yeah, I'm sure George would, after a while, he would see you doing it and just get closer and
Right.
closer. He can get a little kiddie suit. Seen
Yeah.
them online, little kid
Yeah.
suits.
It's like your horses. You know, when we first turned up at your house, he wasn't going nowhere near those
No,
horses. But then, as soon as you started giving the grass to the horses, and he saw it was all right,
yeah, it's
that's what he
fine.
was doing for the next half an hour.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think bees and stuff like that would probably be the same.
Yeah, it's just that initial fear, isn't it? It's the unknown, and I suppose with bees, there's an extra because they're known to sting you and hurt you.
Yeah. So could a horse. Horse
Horse
could do more damage than a bee.
bloody good. Yeah, definitely. Right, there's a fantastic place in Devon where the bees are behind a huge glass wall.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow, that sounds cool.
Yeah, I saw a thing on Instagram the other day because I've started to watch a few bee things. There's a bloke in America, so he's got an entrance on the outside of his house, and on the inside, he's got 4 or 5 big hexagons of glass. Looks really smart, well done, but that's what the hive is, and you can see him from in his lounge.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
just don't smash the glass for God's sake. Yeah, they look really, really nice. So I'll let Simon be happy to give you an experience.
Yeah.
You're in.
Watch this space.
Even it's just to experience being that close to a hive with 60,000 bees buzzing around you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Very
it's
brilliant.
amazing. Yeah, really good. Really good. Right, that was fantastic. Love that. Thank you, Mark. And thank you, Mark. And
Mark.
everybody. There's too many Marks in the world.
I know. He was Mark with a K though, and I'm Mark with a C.
Yes, definitely. Temperature's now getting cooler.
Yeah, it's nice. A good
13.
But I mean, I've got the light
degrees
on, but it's still light outside. You've got your light on.
I put my light on, but it's still a little bit in the sky. We're always a few minutes before you, aren't we?
Yeah, it's not going to be long until
No.
I mean, we usually finish before now, but
Yeah.
a long one.
But it's only 6 weeks for the longest day. Sorry to put a damper on everything. June the 21st. Sorry.
That can go away.
Yeah. Long time yet. Got a long summer ahead of us. Good summer ahead. Right.
We'll see you
Time
next
to go.
week, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Cheers, Mark. See you soon.
See you later.
Bye, mate.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Through the Garden Gate.